Welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast, presented by Strategic Treasurer, your source for interesting Treasury news, analysis, and insights in your car, at the gym, or wherever you decide to tune in. On this episode of the Treasury Update Podcast, host Craig Jeffery joins Devanshu Bhatt, Senior Vice President and Head of Treasury and Risk Solutions at Eka, to discuss how technology advances are impacting all aspects of our business lives and processes. Topics of discussion center around how low-code, no-code, app-based activities within a platform mindset is changing the technology and risk world and leading us closer to the democratization of programming. Listen into this engaging conversation to find out more.
So welcome to the podcast, Devanshu.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Happy to be here.
On this topic of the democratization of programming and the tech impact on treasury and risk, I wanted to begin by asking you if you could define some of the main terms that we'll be weaving in through the conversation if this makes programming more accessible. What are some of the main terms that we need to be thinking about? And what do those mean too?
Yeah, some of the main things which we should be considering is low-code, no-code application and the concept of app. So just to define what low-code and no-code app is, for a very, very long time, business users and experts have been wanting to contribute directly to building software. They want to produce their own custom reports. They want to produce their dashboards. They want to set up their own workflows. And they also want to share and collaborate with their peers, their bosses, the CFOs in our treasury world. And low-code and no-code is the answer for that. Basically, what it does is it empowers the business users and IT developers to build their own software or to customize the software which they are using. In short, low-code is a visual approach to software development, and it's basically a great way to break the silos between business and IT.
Great. So this low-code or no-code is where the user can select things using the tools that automatically builds the code behind it. And maybe we can talk later if that's going to put experts like you out of business. But yeah, low code and no code, very, very good explanation. And you mentioned app as well.
Yeah, so app is a great concept. So it is basically a fully functional piece of software which is delivered to the end users. It consists of low code. It may consist of the low code program, or it may also consist of sophisticated programs built in Java, JavaScript, and all those hi-fi languages. App basically can work very efficiently on their own, alone as well. They do the work, they deliver the functionality, but when they are connected together through APIs or through various platform features, they become better and they deliver a broader and greater capability to the end users. They offer flexibility because they are small in pieces, but when combined together, they offer really, really in-depth functionality as well.
Yeah, so this smaller unit is a descriptor of app, as you said. Should we be thinking about this any differently? I mean, we're used to apps on our smartphones. Is this the same concept, just done on a different platform, or is there something else we should think about?
So it's kind of similar concept. Either we are using the App Store by Apple or we are using the Google Play. It's kind of similar. So these apps are small functionalities and features delivered on a platform which can be by Apple or can be by Google Play in our mobile world. Similarly, the apps delivered on a cloud platform like Eka's platform can be kind of easily correlated to the same. So for example, in our treasury space, we can have app which can be as small as cash position app, can be a bank reconciliation app, it can be a cash forecasting app. So all of them are working very well alone, but it can be combined and it can be delivered as a complete solution. If the customer wants, they can add as their business is growing, they can keep on adding. They can quickly add liquidity pooling, they can add FX risk management, and even funding and borrowing as well as the need grows.
Now, the other topic when we were talking before we did the podcast, you had mentioned platform as another concept, or a platform mindset is something we need to be thinking about in this era.
Yeah, so platform basically an infrastructure. It provides a complete environment to build, develop the software as well as to deploy the completed product or to deploy the solution. So it consists of a lot of common capabilities and infrastructure that can be used across various product or offerings. It can be reused n number of times. It can be extended n number of times. So basically, it is an ecosystem of technical, infrastructural, and functional components. It can consist of components like workflow automation utility. It can consist of components like unifying the data sources from disparate sources. It can consist of app builders or various development tools on which you can build a software. Or it can also consist of an integration hub, which actually combines various systems. Or it can also have analytics and reporting capabilities. So these are the technical components which exist. Along with it, there can be functional components also which can be packaged. For example, P&L monitoring. For example, state-through processing capability. For example, it can have inherent market data capability or risk and compliance capability. So all of this actually form a platform on which you stitch together your solution.
I do have one question on the app side. It's a combination of proper programming or low code and other types of programming, like you give examples of a cash position app, et cetera. How would you distinguish that from some of the terms that we're used to hearing of, here's a module? Like if a system has multiple modules, we're talking about a platform having apps. How should we think about the difference or a distinction between an app and a module, in the previous iteration of tech?
Right. That's interesting. So we need to actually look back a little bit to the older paradigm and then compare it with the newer paradigm. So in the older paradigm where the legacy softwares were created, so they are basically big monolithic software, which are very difficult to change, which are built on these modules, which collectively work together and deliver a solution. So they are compartmentalized functionalities, but connected together and delivered to the user as a complete solution. At the end, it is still a monolithic piece of software. It is still very tightly coupled and tightly connected. Very difficult to change, upgrade, and also difficult to maintain. Now, what this app does, it's a complete end-to-end small piece of functionality delivered to the users. It's discrete in nature, complete in nature. It packs the functionality in small increments, small use cases. And the best part is that it is very well connected either through the platform where they live in or through APIs which actually they connect through. So it is very easy to connect together. It is very easy to just make the changes in very, very small increments. And collectively, like I say, it can offer the same level of functionality together. So that's the biggest difference between modules which are monolithic in nature generally and legacy kind of design versus apps which are very modern design, which are very discrete and self-contained, self-sufficient.
That's an excellent definition, Devanshu, or explanation rather. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the history of business and programmers as a setup. When we talked ahead of time, we had a bit of a discussion on this. And before I ask you about what the low-code app and platform environment mean for speed and effectiveness, I just wanted to talk through the history of business users and programmers. It used to be that you identify business requirements. Business users say, here's what we want. They would describe it as best they could. And then the developers or the programmers would disappear for 6 months or 9 months. They would come back and said, here is your application, or here is your program according to your specifications, and everything would be checked off. And then the business user would look at it and say, yeah, this has some reference to what I said, but this is not what I wanted. It's very, very different. And so, I remember there was this transition of bringing the programmers and developers closer. So there's a faster feedback loop. And some of that seems to be this progression of this faster feedback loop. So as we talk about low code and no code and developing apps, a more nimble, faster development, what does this new technology mean from a speed and effectiveness standpoint? The speed of development, the effectiveness of what's delivered.
Great point, Craig. So been there, done that. So I was a developer and I used to hate the business analyst who would write these bulky specs and will never accept what I build. And then I turned out to be a business analyst and a product manager. I would write the same specs and then will be frustrated because the developers are delivering something which I never asked for. So we actually have made a gradual progression until almost 4 to 5 years back. So we brought like you were saying, we brought the business analysts and developers together, and they work reasonably efficiently, but not efficiently enough. Until very recently, with the emergence of low code and no code platform, what we are now doing is we are empowering the business experts, the users who are actually going to be the consumers of these software. So we are empowering them to be engaged right upfront. Not just engaged, they can as well participate in building the solution themselves. So what that does is 3 things. It brings speed and accuracy. You don't need to wait 9 months to actually build the software and then almost never be able to iterate. So we are seeing that speed and accuracy is going 10x to 20x more than ever before.
10x to 20x, yeah.
Exactly. What it also does is it produces a lot of effective solution because you are connected to the business users. They are involved right up front. So you are going to deliver what the customer needs are, what the market demands. So you're more closer and aligned to that. That's the other thing. And then because you are working with the business people already, so there is going to be a higher adoption. So that's why this low code, no code paradigm, which is bringing the business users and the IT team together is actually almost a huge innovation which is coming in our lifetime.
Yeah, excellent. I like the 10 to 20 times faster number. That's memorable. Devanshu, could you explain about the implications of the low code and no code environment to, let's say, the end user, but also to companies that are developing systems or processes, whether it's in Treasury, other areas of finance, or beyond?
So we should look at both aspects. So we should look at the end users. Obviously, they're the primary consumers. So we should look at them, what this low code, no code paradigm, the platform play offers to them, but also the vendor perspective. So one thing is, it's not easy to build a platform, a low code platform or a platform on which you can build solutions. Like in our case, we had a CTRM solution which was already working on a modern cloud platform. And we were able to latch onto that, leverage that, and build adjacent apps and features. So what we all needed pretty much was to bring in the expertise who were experts in the Treasury, like when we build the Treasury solution, bring in the expertise, ask them to stitch together the solution using our platform capability to configure the workflows, to produce the reports and dashboards, to connect to various data sources, and also to use some of the very inherent capability which pre-existed, like derivative management, derivative lifecycle management, position mark-to-market, and the risk capability which came with the CTRM application. So that we were able to tag on to that and build a whole complete FX risk management suite as well. Now, what this offers to the end users or to the enterprise is basically flexibility and scalability. How it offers flexibility is, let's say a company is starting small. They are a small or to a medium enterprise, and they're just interested in, let's say, cash and liquidity. So they can just take a cash position app. As their business grows, they can extend it to liquidity planning as well. And as their business grows, they can even extend to foreign exchange risk management as well. Not just that, what it also offers is to cross the boundaries of a particular domain. So they can start with a Treasury solution, and as they need, they can go into the CTRM space, get the trading and risk management solution as well, or they can cross further and get the e-sourcing solution as well, which we have. So that's a great flexibility and scalability which these platform offers.
This question covers some of the same ground with what you just explained, maybe from a slightly different perspective. I wanted to talk less from the technical side and maybe even more from the business side about how the technology changes or impacts the different activities of development, upgrades, et cetera. And you had mentioned some of the legacy, as we go back to 1-tier, 2-tier, N-tier technology sets. There was an inherent linear process that took a long time. Maybe you could explain how that's changed and how we could think about that.
Early on, we had 2-tier application, then we moved and we had 3-tier application. And then we moved further and we started adding microservices. Microservices inherently are small piece of software which are composed of independent services, and they can communicate very effectively with each other. So it's almost like my solution is not built of big pieces, but these are built of micro pieces or microservices. What it allows is, it allows us to only change the place where it is most needed. It's almost like the analogy can be, we don't want to boil the whole ocean if we can do with just boiling a cup of water. So just correct or focus on something which is very small, which is very contained, so that the impact is not huge, so that it doesn't require very, very costly upgrades. To an extent that these upgrades and these releases, customers were actually scared of that. They would really not even go for upgrades. They would be still fine working in like previous 2-3 years old versions. And instead of really doing the upgrades, they would rather actually buy a new software. So what it does is it again cluttered the whole environment. There'll be more and more softwares in their technical ecosystem and very, very difficult to maintain. Versus now come to the new paradigm. We are working off of microservices. We are working off of apps, and we can actually just fix what is broken and contain the work only on that side.
Yeah, I like that example of the boil the ocean versus boiling a cup of water. When we were talking earlier, there was the discussion about, if you have wiring, electricity coming into your home or plumbing, you have, the water lines coming into your house, rewiring your house or replumbing your house is a massive task versus if things are modular. It's like I can change a light bulb, I can change a faucet. Just the scale and effort is very much diminished, and that's part of the these smaller slices or microservices that you're talking about. That seems to make more sense on the business side of my head.
So these software companies and vendors, they're building a lot of new features, but the business users are not benefiting from it because it is very costly to upgrade and to adopt those features. So they pretty much use the same 5-year-old feature set. They use the 5-year-old system. And even if the newest system is there, they're not ready to use it. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, that's the biggest hurdle which these monolithic systems offer. Whereas these new modern systems built on cloud platform, they offer not just rich functional depth, but offer a lot of agility, ability to quickly deploy in small pieces so that customers and users can quickly adopt and use and benefit from it.
This last main section that I wanted to ask you about is, I was originally going to say, how do apps allow for faster development than the traditional activity? And you've covered quite a bit of that. But I guess maybe the way I would rephrase what I want to ask you is, how does a platform plus apps allow for faster development or more extensible development in other areas? I know things like robotic process automation, AI and machine learning, et cetera. There's a range of other tech that can become enabled there. I just wanted to see if you could just address that question.
So this platform is a most incorrectly used term these days. So everybody says that they are a platform company. Now, what underlies a platform is the whole mindset. It is probably more important than building a platform or a solution on it than to actually change the whole mindset of the organization. It is basically a shift from thinking about features and about building something on your own to thinking about capability and to think about extending something which already exists or which is pre-built. It is about creating an ecosystem of technology and business capability. It is about involving the users and the end users and the business partners while you are doing the development. The reason why this platform and the apps which are actually living on those platforms, which are bite-sized functionality delivered on that platform, why it is more efficient and why it is more faster, is because you are actually not just building it all on your own. You're not building yourself. you are actually ready to use something which is already built. And the greatest benefit comes from repeated use and extensibility of the components which are already there. So that is the biggest driver why it is a lot faster and a lot easier to extend.
You mentioned the ecosystem that, I assume this is an ecosystem of apps. And it seems like there's obviously the apps that are built and the internal apps that are part of this this platform or ecosystem. And that's really a key part of the mindset. And you're at least alluding to third party, whether it's apps or services in part of your discussion. Is that right? Or is there additional things we should be thinking about?
Yeah, so you're right. So we should be ready to connect to any third-party system or third-party capability which exists so that we can go faster to the market. So the time to market is actually minimized. We should not think about delivering everything from scratch. So that's the key part. And the underlying part is we build, whenever we are building it ourselves, we build not to be used once. We build it so that it can be used again and again, and it can be extended more as and when it is required. So both. So it's an ecosystem of our own capability, but also ecosystem of related capability which exists in other platforms and other systems.
Yeah, this is like the old ecological triangle that circles around or cycles around from reduce, reuse, recycle. It's just being efficient from this ecosystem standpoint. Very good.
The platform can have inherent capabilities like AI capability can be built on the platform. And then depending on the use case which we have, we can tag on to that capability. We can tag on to our processing power of the platform, our ability to quickly create the learning data, which is required to make any of the AI models efficient. We can store all the results, reuse all the results which are sitting on the platform. And we can just tweak it and modify it depending on the use cases. For example, if we want to build a capability in cash forecasting, we can use our AI capability on the platform and create a more intelligent cash forecast. Similarly, if you want to extend it to anomaly detection in, let's say, payment processing, we can again use the same infrastructure and same capability to build a quick payment anomaly detection system or bank fee anomaly system. So all of those use cases can be very quickly put together in a very sophisticated technology, which is just built once, which is AI and machine learning technology.
So should we think of a platform in another way as well as the way you described it as it's made up of all the data, these apps, and these extensible connectors or tools like AI and machine learning that can all interoperate and use each other? Is that a way to think about a platform conceptually too?
Exactly. So you described it well. So it consists of the data. It consists of the workflow, which is around the data. It consists of the components of building blocks like AI component, which is part of the platform. So it consists of that. It consists of business intelligence or analytics capability so that we can represent the results very effectively. It also consists of some of the core features like security and compliance, single sign-on. So all of these are like kind of the platform components which can be leveraged to build any solution. Yeah.
This has been most helpful from talking about low code and apps, platforms, the ecosystem. As we draw to a close, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any final thoughts as we cover these topics. Anything to leave us with?
Yeah, so like the topic says, democratization of programming. So I would like to comment on that. So what has happened in the last 4 to 5 years, we have seen a huge influx and growth in platform-based solution. Low code and no code has become more popular than ever before. There are almost hundreds of low code providers and platforms which are enabling faster and easier way to develop software. Basically, what it has done is it has democratized the whole programming world, created two kind of programmers, like you alluded to, that it can actually be seen as a threat to professional programmers because there is a big emergence of what is called as citizen developers. Citizen developers are basically the business experts who are now also developing software. However, the important point to note is because we are talking about platform, these professionals who are technical people, they can focus more on building the infrastructure and leave building the solution or the functional development to so-called citizen developers as well. So I think that is a very, very big shift which has happened. What it has done is it has removed all the barriers of coding. Coding is no more a complex task. You can have ordinary developers or citizen developers who are more closer to the business users. They can themselves build the software. That's a huge thing which is happening and which is going to impact the fintech space also. Already we are seeing that based on several surveys, almost 50 to 60 people are actually wanting a very fast-paced, accelerated digital transformation to meet these changes. And vendors like ourselves will play a big role in driving those changes compared to the legacy players. The legacy players are very monolithic. It's very difficult to change. Whereas what this democratization has done is to vendors like us, we can very easily adopt to that and we can build solutions very fast. And we have proven that by building the Treasury solution.
Devanshu, thank you so much. And I'm going to use that phrase, citizen developers, in conversations over the next weeks and months. Thanks so much for your time and insights on today's edition of the Treasury Update Podcast.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Treasury Update Podcast. Be sure to follow Strategic Treasurer on LinkedIn. Just search for Strategic Treasurer. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.